Hi, welcome to RiskWire. I'm Reena Agrawal, Senior Research Economist at Veros Real Estate Solutions.
And my name is Eric Fox. I'm Chief Economist here at Veros Real Estate Solutions.
So I think today is a good time to talk about the state of the housing market. We have hit the midway point of 2025. So let's find out if the housing market is crashing, or is it growing, or have you just hit a pause button?
Yeah, let's talk about some of the numbers, because I think when we read accounts in the media today, we see some very different things happening. To your point just now, some saying market's very healthy, some saying imminent doom, and some saying kind of flat.
So the first indicator I'm going to talk about today is the Veros Housing Market Hotness Index. So the way we calculate this index is we use data pertaining to housing market activity, demand and supply. And if you want to know where to find it, you can find it on riskwire.com. And if the index value is between 95 and 105, it means it's a stable market. It's neither a buyer's market, nor is it a seller's market. Now, if the index value is above 105, what it means is it's a hot market. There is low supply. Homes are selling rapidly, and there is enough demand, so price is also rising. But if the index value is below 95, we are calling it a cool market. That is, there is enough supply, homes are not selling as fast. So the last index value we have, that is for end of June, it was below 95. So we were in the cool zone. And if you compare it to the index value at the same time last year, it was above 105. So it was in the hot zone. So we can see that the index value has decreased. It has gone from the hot zone to the cool zone. But if we go granular, then we see that only 41% of our markets are in the cool zone. 22% are actually in the hot zone, and the remaining 37% are in the stable zone. So it's not all gloom and doom here. It's not that, even though for the entire US, we're seeing that the index is below 95. But there are many markets there which are actually quite hot right now, where supply is low and homes are staying on the market for a short time.
So that's very interesting, because if we take a look at some of the variables as we start to drill down a little bit on how we define a cool market from a stable market to a very hot market, first thing we usually look at is inventory. How many homes are on the market to purchase? And if we look at that, in the month of May 2025, there were 1.54 million homes on the market. And you may say, well, that sounds like a lot, but it is still less than the number of homes that were on the market in June of 2020, which was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And the numbers in pre-pandemic were upwards of $1.5 to $2 million, and much higher even yet were occurring during the 2008-2009 housing market crash, when there were 3 million homes on the market. So even if we look at this variable of how many homes are available for purchase, it's still surprisingly low, what we're seeing on the market today.
And this is also reflected in the month supply. So for May 2025, the month supply was at 4.6. And if you compare it to the same time last year, it was at 3.8 months. So we think, so yes, supply is increasing. But then again, when you compare it to what is supposed to be a balanced market, that is at 5 to 6 months supply. So we still haven't hit that mark yet.
So now if we take a look at the demand, unlike the supply available for purchase, demand has been incredibly low. Only 4.03 million homes were sold May on an annualized basis. And to find a May that has weaker sales than that, we'd have to go all the way back to 2009 during the Great Recession, when we all know that demand plummeted. So demand isn't so good right now.
So basically, we have more homes, we have more supply, but we have very few buyers. And I think it all comes down to affordability, because mortgage rates are still in that 6.6 to 6.8% range. And yes, mortgage rates are lower than what we saw last year. Last year in October, mortgage rates were up at 7.8%. But the 6.6%, 6.8%, this is still crushing many home buyers. They just cannot afford this kind of payment, because if you look at the payment that a person would have made in 2021, for the same amount of loan, they would now have to make a payment which is almost 35%, 40% higher. So most first-time buyers are just staying on the sidelines and not willing to purchase a home.
And I think the same thing is happening with sellers. They're not adjusting prices in any meaningful way. We've commented on this forum before that many people are still sitting on 3% mortgage interest rates, and they see no reason to move. So they feel if they can't sell their house at the value they want, there's no real reason to move, and they're just waiting for buyers to come along that are willing to pay their price. And so we're kind of at a standoff.
So it's really not all gloom and doom. There are definitely many bright spots in the country. There are a lot of small metros in the Midwest and Northeast markets that are moving well. And this is because they have attainable home prices. They have a smaller supply of homes. So yes, those markets are doing great. And of course, there are markets in Texas and Florida where things are not going on so well, because there is a large supply out there. There's a lot of new construction, and home prices have really gone up there. So new buyers are just not willing to make that big purchase now.
So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with the housing market, I think most accurately can be described as in pause mode. It's not crashing, it's not rebounding, it's just kind of stuck. And unless mortgage rates drop meaningfully, we may be in this pattern for a while.
Thank you for your insights, Eric. See you next time.
Have a good day.